Now, let's talk about when we're simplifying square root of 24. And this is just a review because we covered this in the previous chapter. So when we're dealing with square root, you have to think, can 24 be square root? Meaning, is 24 a perfect square number? In this case, it is not. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into two numbers where one of them is a perfect square number. So for this example, we're going to break it down into 4 times 6. Now the reason I'm using these two numbers is because 4 is a perfect square number. When it's multiplying, I can split it into two square roots. So square root of 4 times square root of 6. You can do the square root of 4, which is just 2. Now the square root of 6, you can't, so it stays like that. It will be square root of 6. So my final answer will be 2 square root of 6. Alright. So that's what you basically have to do when simplifying, which is pure numbers. So let's talk about if we had, say, 18a to the 7th power. Now this one has a variable. So here we gotta remember that when we're dealing with square root, we don't have a number right here from the beginning. Then that just means that it's an invisible 2. So again, when dealing with square roots, you don't have a visible number outside, it just means an invisible 2. Alright, so what we can do is we can break it into smaller parts to make the problem look easier. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to break the 18 in the a to the 7th power. Alright, so here, let's talk about the numbers. Now 18 is not a perfect square number, but you can break it into two numbers where one of them is. So here I would break it into 9 times 2. Now a, when we're dealing with square root, remember, the square root has an invisible 2 outside. So basically we're going to check, can 2 go into 7 into a whole number? In this case, it cannot. So if we were thinking about the number 7, so 7 right here, if I were to take 1 away, I have 6 left. And 6 can be divisible by 2. So what happened, or what I'm going to do is, I'm going to split this a into two a's. Multiply. And again, this is all dealing with properties of exponents. So again, we had 7. If I were to take 1 away, or let me take a step back, 7, 2 could not go into 7. So if I were to take 1 away, I have 6. 2 can go into 6. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to write the first a with the exponent of 6, and then the one I took away, 1. And then this one has the square root. And again, it has the invisible 2 outside the square root. Now the 2 can go into a to the 6th power because 6 is divisible by 2, while 1 cannot. Now, the reason I broke this up into two a's is because a to the 6 times a to the 1, when you multiply, you add the exponent, you get a to the 7. But the main purpose is that so I can simplify a to the 7th into a simpler version where a to the 6 can be square rooted, even though that this cannot. It's the same concept as what I'm doing with the numbers here. Now, with the numbers, I can split this into square root of 9 times square root of 2. Same thing here, times square root of a to the 6th power times the square root of a to the 1 power. Now the reason I broke it into two numbers is that one of them can be square root, in this case the 9. So same thing here, we can do the square root of a to the 6. Now the square root of 9 is simply 3. Bring down the square root of 2 because you cannot do the square root of 2. The square root of a to the 6th power, meaning 6 divided by 2 will be a to the 3rd power. And see how when I did square root of a to the 6th, this become a to the 3rd power? I don't have the square root anymore. But 2 does not go into 1, so I'm just going to leave this as square root of a. Now I finished simplifying with the square roots. So what I'm going to do is, the ones that I was able to do the square root, I'm going to put it outside. And the ones that are inside the square root, I'm going to combine it together and put it in the back side. So my final answer will be 3a to the 3rd power, and inside the square root is just 2a. So that would be my final answer. So again, here's my final answer, 3a to the 3rd power, square root of 2a. And all I did was, for the number part, I split it into two numbers where one of them I can do the square root. Same concept, a to the 7th, I split it into two a's where I could do the square root of one of the a's.